Daughter Disney podcast. My name is Amanda. I'm here with my lovely mother.
Hi, I'm Jeanette.
And today we are going to be talking about Disney's Lightning Lane. So the idea for this podcast actually came when I was talking to my friend Tyler, and I had booked the Lightning Lane for my bachelorette for all my friends, and he had asked me just in a general sense, like how does it work? And when I started to sort of explain it to him, I realized I was like, actually, it's much more nuanced. Like, it's very hard to necessarily explain what Lightning Lane is and how it works, because at this point in time, as we're recording on June 1st, by the time this goes up, it's going to be over a month later, but I don't think the Lightning Lane is going to change that much within a month. However, it may change over the years. So in the future, it could be a lot different. So this is going to be a dated podcast, unfortunately, because of that. But within the next, I would say 6 months to a year, probably this is how Lightning Lane is going to be working. Right. So I'm going to do a full rundown of what Lightning Lane is, how it basically works, what kind of passes there are, and sort of just a general everything you sort of need to know about Lightning Lane. Right. And yeah, that's just is. And honestly, most of this has just come from me using it.
Well, Amanda is the expert, as I have to say, which I thank her for every day, because she's the one that, worries about the Lightning Lane, gets us the Lightning Lane, books the Lightning Lane, checks the Lightning Lane.
Yes.
I'm responsible for the hotels and the restaurants and making sure we eat and what we're doing and what the schedule is, making park reservations if we have to and all that kind of stuff. But Amanda does the Lightning Lanes.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through all the Lightning Lanes. Again, most of this has just come from me using Lightning Lane, not even really any research, honestly. So this is just purely from experience.
Sometimes that's the best way, is because it's you're using it. So
there are three main types of Lightning Lane. So previously, Lightning Lane was referred to as Fast Pass, and now it's called Lightning Lane. So you'll still hear people refer to as Fast Pass. Now, back in the day, Fast Pass was the line itself and the passes you would have. And today, it is called Lightning Lane, and that is the lane you go through to, I would say in quotes, like have a shorter line to the ride. And there are three types of passes you can buy in order to get to the Lightning Lane, essentially. So I feel like that's confusing a lot, because a lot of people think the Lightning Lane... I was always
confused about that.
Yeah, a lot of people usually think the Lightning Lane is the pass. The Lightning Lane is not the pass. That's just the lane you go through to get to the actual ride, but there's three passes. The three passes as of right now is the multi-pass, the single pass, and the premier pass. So first we're going to do the multi-pass and the single pass, because those two passes go hand in hand, and then the premier pass is something a little bit different. So we'll get to that in a second. So in order to purchase the Lightning Lane passes, you have to go through the My Disney Experience app. So this is very inconvenient if you're not a big app person, you're not very technology basis, because unfortunately you do have to use the app for all of this, essentially. So gone are those days of the paper fast passes. Honestly, really miss them though, even just for the little token of having one. Now first, which is very important, everyone in your party has to be linked to your account. If you have a family member or a friend who's not linked to your account, you will not be able to purchase them the Lightning Lane, nor will they be able to purchase you the Lightning Lane as well. So this is a big deal if you go in with friends or other family members. There's like someone outside of your immediate family. It's very difficult sometimes to get everyone linked to your pass. I would honestly just suggest Googling it, because it's very involved of how you do this. But essentially, if you are on the app itself, you just go to the hamburger menu, you go to your profile, and then you go to your family and friends list. And from here, you can add a guest to your family and friends list, and that's when you can search for the person to add them. They have to accept the friend request, so to speak. But again, very important to do this. Or again, it's I would suggest just going into maybe even on your laptop or computer to do this to make sure everyone's added on your guest list. And I will say, when you go to actually purchase the Lightning Lane down the road, you will see all the available people you have an option to purchase for them. So if you don't see them, that's how you know that they're not connected to your account. True. So again, you just have to go and make sure they're connected to your account. So I would suggest doing this before it's actually time to purchase the Lightning Lane as well, but we'll get to that in just one moment. So again, make sure all the parties in your party have accepted the friend request. And I will say too, it is a little bit easier if you're a first time Disney goer, because if you just purchase all the tickets at once, everyone's automatically attached to your account. So all right, so for the multi-pass and the single pass, and even the premier pass, I'm pretty sure, you can see the prices of these passes 3 weeks in advance. So when you open up the app and you go to purchase the Lightning Lane, it'll be like a big widget on the app that says purchase the Lightning Lane. You can look at the calendar and you can see up to 3 weeks in advance of what all those prices are going to be per park. Now I say that because the prices will change depending upon the day of the week and depending upon the time that you go, essentially. Right. So of course, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are always going to be a little bit less expensive, but then a Saturday on 4th of July weekend is going to be probably the most expensive, So again, but 3 weeks in advance, you'll be able to see those prices, but you can only purchase the pass 7 days in advance. Now, if you've already purchased, let's say you have your 4-day park ticket, in 3 weeks, the app will often tell you the day you can actually buy your Lightning Lane. So when I did it, for instance, it said I can purchase my Lightning Lane on, let's say June 1st at 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. is always going to be the purchasing time for this. So, which is kind of nice that the app tells you when you can purchase the Lightning Lane.
So you're not guessing.
Yeah, so you're not trying to figure it out at 7 a.m. Not really sure. Yeah, so the app will tell you, which is kind of nice. So yes, I would just make sure 3 weeks in advance, check to see, and then again, you can see the prices. You can start, budgeting out how much you're going to be spending on this if you want to spend it on, of course, because again, it does cost money. So another thing too is that you can purchase the pass for some people in your party and not others. So for instance, this can get very confusing. So I would say just to pay very close attention if you choose to do this, because if you start to like, take people out of your party that they're not going to use the Lightning Lane pass, especially for the single pass, it's going to get confusing real quick. But you can save money, of course, if you decide to do this route. But just to note, it's like you don't have to purchase it for everyone in your party. You only have to purchase it for some. So if you have like grandma coming or something like that, and she's definitely not going to go on really any rides, like she's just going to be kind of floating along with the family. Maybe she doesn't need, the single pass or the multi-pass.
Like you said,
you never
it does
know.
Cost a lot of money.
All right, let's go through the multi-pass first. So again, there's the 3 passes. We're going to do the multi-pass first. So multi-pass is it's when you book in advance. So again, you can buy this pass 1 week in advance, and you can pre-select up to 3 rides. So each ride will have the 1 hour callback time. So it's like, let's say you're in Magic Kingdom, so you want to do Haunted Mansion, you'll have 1 hour between 9 and 10, let's say, to go on the ride. And if you book exactly 7 days in advance, you'll have pretty good options overall to pick the times when you want to go on the rides. Now, let's say you missed that 7 a.m. window on that first day and you purchase it the next day, you'll still be able to purchase the Lightning Lanes. You're just like, you may not be able to get like the earlier times. You may have to pick the afternoon times. But I do like that overall in the sense that you get to pick the times out yourself, especially if you're doing it on that 7 a.m. 7 day before you go, because you can kind of plan the day out a little bit when you're doing it. Now, I would suggest to go a little bit quickly because other people are also doing the same thing, remember?
Right.
So things will book up, but I'll say it's not like it's going to book up in like seconds. You have a little bit of leeway time, so, but I mean, like, again, this is also, I haven't really gone during like Christmas week or Easter week.
I was just going to say, but I would changes when Christmas week,
but
Easter
I would say
week,
overall is to
like
maybe
that.
think through, it's like what rides do you want to go on at what time, so that when you go on, you can then book those rides. But I would say, again, even so, it's like you have a little bit of leeway. It's not as if like there's like a huge mad rush, because again, everyone's picking different rides too. But of course, the rides that are like the big ticket rides, like Peter Pan's Flight is always going to be a big ticket that goes out really quickly. Slinky Dog Dash goes out very quickly as well. So like if you have one of those rides that is going to be ones that often sells out quickly, I would try to book that one first to make sure you have it. Now, another thing too is that when you pick your rides as well, you will pick all the rides and all of the times before you even purchase. So this is kind of nice too, because let's say again you forgot to do it on that 7 days in advance at 7 a.m. You're a few days in and you go on, and the rides you want to go to, like Peter Pan's Flight is all taken, Slinky Dog Dash is all taken, and you're like, well, those are the rides I really wanted to. Then you can decide that I'm just not going to purchase it. It's not really worth it for us.
So you have a choice.
Yes, you do have that choice, which is kind of nice too. But then you can always use it for something else as well if you really wanted to. So, all right. So each park has tier 1 and tier 2 rides for the multi-pass, except for Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom does not tier out their rides, mainly because they just don't, I think, have enough rides, if we're being honest. So no tiers for Animal Kingdom. For the multi-pass, again, we're still a multi-pass here. So again, for every other park, they have the tier 1 rides and the tier 2 rides. Now, way back when, FastPass used to do the same thing, honestly, where the rides were tiered 1 to tier 2. And you can select 1 ride from the tier 1 ride and 2 rides from the tier 2 rides, or you can select all 3 from tier 2 rides, of course. So once you, and so I would say to look up the rides, of course, because for the most part, they're kind of all the same, but just in case they change, again, this is all available on the Disney
sometimes
website.
They shift them, right?
Yeah, some of the rides will sometimes shift and everything. So it's always good to make sure that before you do it, and like when you're actually purchasing, obviously it's going to tell you when you're purchasing which ones are the tier 1 rides. Like you can pick 1 ride from this list and pick 2 rides from this list. So the app will tell you as you're going along, so you can like pick the rides and the times, of course. But again, when planning in advance, so you like can do a little bit quicker the day of when you're booking, it's always good to make sure you kind of have in mind what you want to do, so that way you can just make that process go a little bit faster is all. So so again, the tier 1, tier 2 rides, that's very important, because again, a lot of the rides that like the big ticket rides, so let's say you're in Epcot, so for instance in Epcot, the tier 1 rides is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Frozen Ever After, Soarin', and Test Track are all the tier 1 rides. Now, of course, I would love to do Frozen Ever After and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. So, but of course, you can only pick one, right? So like you just got, I usually pick Remy's Ratatouille Adventure because I like that ride better. So that's what I do. However, once you are in the park and you use your first multi-pass Lightning Lane, you can then start rebooking the multi-pass. You can only do this with the multi-pass. The single pass, the Premier Pass don't do this at all. So only the multi-pass does this. But so like, let's say we go into Epcot, I used my first Lightning Lane on Spaceship Earth. We got there like, let's say 10 a.m. we got there. We used a 10 a.m. Lightning Lane. And I had already picked my tier 1 Lightning Lane for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Well, now that we've just all tapped in with our Spaceship Earth Lightning Lane, I can go in the app and I can rebook the next pass essentially. And you will always have 3 options that day, right? So I can go in and I can see what available passes are for later in the day. Now, if let's say it's a busy day, let's say you're going during July, 4th of July weekend, right? So maybe there's none for Frozen Ever After. They're all booked up because everyone there did it during like the pre-selection days, during your pre-bookings. But if you're going a little bit more in off season or just like more of a regular season, not like the high peak times, often there will be times for those tier 1 rides that you can then book for later that day, which is really nice, honestly, because then you can still get Lightning Lanes for the tier 1 rides, even though you couldn't pre-select it before you actually got to the park. So I always try to do that. Often Frozen is almost always taken, for instance, but Soaring usually isn't. instance. So then you can get a lightning lane for Soarin', whereas I couldn't have done Remy and Soarin' at the same time previously. So again, that's just like one example, for instance. There's hundreds of examples. But I think that is a great thing that you can start to rebook right afterwards. And then every time you use your multi-pass lightning lane, you can always then rebook the next ride.
Right. So you can always have 3.
Yep. So every time you always have 3 that you can have booked in your app, or so to speak. But once you use one, you can then rebook, and you always have your 3 saved. Now, it's important to note that you cannot, like, for instance, let's say you decide before you even get to the parks that, like, oh, I had Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and had Spaceship Earth. I want to switch Spaceship Earth to Frozen. You still can't do that. You have to use the first pass. And again, it doesn't have to be your tier 1 pass. You have to use a pass in a general sense to then rebook to the tier 1 rides. Right. Or again, if you want to switch from like Remy's to Frozen, you could do that, for instance, but like within the tier 1 rides. Right. So that's where I feel like it starts to get confusing when you have the tier 1, the tier 2 rides. And this was me trying to explain this to Tyler in like a pool on the Disney cruise ship. It's just like, I was like, this is a lot, honestly. Right. So, and it's going to be a lot, even just verbally saying it. I know it's like, it's not going to stick until you're actually kind of doing it to a certain extent. So, but often this, like the first lightning lane, a lot of people refer to as like, in quotes, your burner ride, because you're essentially just burning the lightning lane really quick. So that way you can start rebooking the lightning lanes immediately. So now I will say too, for the multi-pass, you can book lightning lanes at the same time as other passes. So for instance, let's say I had Spaceship Earth booked for the same time as Soarin'. They're both like 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It will let you do that. The app will let you do that. It will tell you have overlapping plans during this time. Actually, even if you have a dining reservation, it will also say that too. It's like, let's say you had like lunch reservations at noon, and then you had like 11:30 to 12:30. It will tell you have overlapping reservations at this time. But often you can still use them. So like
because you can, if you, as long as you want to plan your time, then you'll make sure that you do the ride.
That's what I'm saying. If you can do the 2 rides in an hour, then you can still do it. Like it won't. Else. Just to say is you can have things overlapping. It's just then up to you to then like get to the rides on time, essentially. Now sometimes that can be tricky. I've had times where I've had 3 rides overlapping, and me and Ted were sprinting throughout Magic Kingdom to make all these lightning lanes, and we did miss one because we just couldn't do it. You know, we got stuck on Tiana's Bayou Adventure for a long time. It's like, what are we supposed to do? We're trapped on a ride. So but just to say, you can do that. I not even that I wouldn't recommend it. I would just say like the time management is just very interesting.
Right, be careful how you plan your time. Right,
for sure. So, and same thing with like you can have your multi-pass booked overlapping with your single pass. So let's go through some of the pricing for multi-pass. So again, some estimated pricing for multi-pass. So Magic Kingdom is normally around $35, between $30 to $40. Again, high peak times could be like $42. So let's say you get on 5 rides for $35, that would be $7 per ride. So in Hollywood Studios is usually around $27, so like $25 to like maybe over $30. Again, if you do 5 rides, that'd be $5.50 per ride. And Epcot is around $24. So again, maybe like $20 to like $27. So during low peak times to higher peak times. So if you do 5 rides in Epcot, that'd be $5 per ride. And in Animal Kingdom, it's normally around $22. So again, 5 rides for $4.40. Now again, of course, you can usually do more than 5 rides, and then you bring that cost per ride down a little bit. So the more you maximize out your pass, the more you'll get for it. But at the same time too, if you go into the Lightning Lane multi-pass thinking, I'm only going to get on these 3 rides, I'm going to pre-book, is it worth it for me just to do these 3 rides for, let's say, $35 in Magic Kingdom? It's like, then it becomes the yes or no, right? And it's just up to you. It's like, is this money worth it for me?
How much money you need to spend, right?
Yeah, but when you break it down per ride, sometimes that can help, especially because now let's get into the single pass. So again, the multi-pass and the single pass work hand in hand. So all of the rides in all of the parks are going to be on the multi-pass, except for 5 rides in all of the parks are not on the multi-pass, and they are on the single pass. Now, the single pass is essentially a pass that you pay this price to get on just this one ride, and normally it is like the top tier ride of the park. So for instance, in Epcot, it is Cosmic Rewind for around $18. For Animal Kingdom, it is Flight of Passage for around $17. In Hollywood Studios, it's Rise of the Resistance for around $22. And Magic Kingdom has 2 rides. It has Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for $13 and Tron for $32. So again, these 5 rides within the 4 parks are not on the multi-pass. So if you purchase the multi-pass, but let's say again, or in Epcot, I want to go on Spaceship Earth, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, but I want to do Cosmic Rewind as well. But then I will still have to purchase my multi-pass for $24 and my Cosmic Rewind single pass for $18. Now I feel like that's where it gets confusing, because sometimes it's like not clear that that's how those passes work hand in hand. But again, you have to have this single pass Lightning Lane to go on just this one ride. So you're paying $18 just to go on Cosmic Rewind's Lightning Lane to basically, I say in quotes, skip the line, but basically just go a little faster through the line. It's not really skipping the line.
Right.
So again, a completely separate charge, and the charge will be for this ride only. And also to note too, this does not count towards your 3 pre-selected rides from multi-pass. So you can still have your 3 pre-selected rides from multi-pass and the single pass. So potentially going into the park, I could have Cosmic Rewind, Spaceship Earth, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, and Living with the Land. Let's say I could have my 4 pre-booked rides for the day, which is kind of nice sometimes if you go in with a little plan to be like, I know know for sure I'm getting on these 4 rides without waiting an hour plus for the ride.
Right.
So again, times are often very flexible for these single pass rides. I would argue that a lot of people just do the multi-pass and not the single pass. This is just from me and my experience, because even like often the day before, you can still buy the single pass and have pretty good options for time for like callback times. Again, they still have the 1 hour callback window time, right? So it's like you still have to decide what time you want to go on this ride. Same with the multi-pass. You're always going to have that 1 hour callback time. But again, you often just, again, more flexible, I would say overall, like what time you want to go on whatever your single pass may be. So, all right. So some other tips I would have for the multi-pass and single pass. One is actually to book them separately. Now, I know this may seem counterintuitive to try to book them quickly, but I say to book them separately because I find it easier organization-wise to book them separately than trying to book your single passes and your multi-passes for the same park all at once. Especially if you have people in your party who are not going to be doing some of the single passes, for instance, like Cosmic Rewind's roller coaster. My mom would never go on that roller coaster, right? So for me to not purchase her that single pass, I actually can't do that in the app. It's kind of like the whole group would have to do it all at once. So I would actually go in, I would purchase the multi-pass for us first, pick all the times for our multi-pass,
and then
I would go in and do the single pass, like maybe for myself or my fiance or something like that, and then pick the time for that. And I would always do the multi-pass before the single pass, because again, the times for the single pass is always going to be a bit more flexible than the multi-pass. So you want to make sure you get your multi-pass out of the way, you get the times you want for that, because single pass will always be a little bit more flexible. So yeah, so I would book them separately. I would do multi-pass first. And again, I would pay very, very close attention if you're not getting a pass for someone in your party, just because it gets when you're doing it quickly and you feel stressed in the moment at 7 a.m., you're like, gotta get my passes and my times. It's very easy to click a name that is actually not going to be using the pass, and then you just spent an extra $18,
right,
not including tax, mind you. Like these prices don't include tax until you pay for it. So, I mean, that's just an American thing, right?
So and let's remember, it doesn't include, you have to pay to get in the park first.
Yeah, like not including your park tickets as well. Yeah, but again, I would just say pay very close attention if you're not purchasing a pass for someone in your party, because again, it can get very confusing when you're doing this. So, all right, so that is, I would say, the main rundown between the multi-pass and the single pass for the Lightning Lanes. Now, let's not forget, there is a third Lightning Lane pass, and that is the Premier Pass. And I will say, I've never actually bought the Premier Pass before, but this is what I know about the Premier Pass at least. The Premier Pass is the top tier Lightning Lane pass, because again, you use a Lightning Lane for all 3 passes. Everyone uses that. Even the Disability Pass also technically uses Lightning Lane. So for the Premier Pass, you pay one price basically for the park, and there are no callback times, so you don't have like the 1 hour window. You can go on the rides whenever you want to. And again, you use the Lightning Lane for all of those rides. You can only use the Lightning Lane for once per ride. So let's say you're in Magic Kingdom.
So you can't go on the ride twice. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, so you can go on all of the rides essentially with no callback time, one time, minimum one time, right? Okay. So, or maximum one time, I should say.
Every ride.
Yeah, every ride, or I should say every ride or show that has a Lightning Lane is what it is, right? So, because again, some of the parks have shows as well that have Lightning Lanes. So let's say again you're in Magic Kingdom, so you can do, It's a Small World, and then jump to Peter Pan's Flight, and then jump to Winnie the Pooh ride, then go to PhilharMagic, all on Lightning Lane, all just like walking around, as if you're just walking around normal. Only used once though, so you can't do It's a Small World twice, for instance. Now this is basically what the Express Pass is at Universal. So if you've been to Universal and you buy the Express Pass, same thing. Literally, that is what the Express Pass is at Universal. Now Universal also has the Express Pass Unlimited, when you can go on the multiple rides as well. So Disney has not introduced the Premier Pass Unlimited, I say in quotes. I'm assuming maybe one day they will have that for a much higher price, but again, as of right now, they don't have it. So let's look at the price ranges. I'll say the prices also change as well for the Premier Pass, depending upon when you're going and what time of year. But generally speaking, this is what the prices are. So for Magic Kingdom, per person, it's $400. Now for this price, you get 19 rides and shows. So that is $22 per ride. In Hollywood Studios, it's $300, and that's 12 rides and or shows. So that's $25 per ride. And Epcot is $230 for 11 rides, so about $20 per ride. And in Animal Kingdom, it's $180 for 9 rides and shows, and that again is about $20 per ride. So generally speaking, you're paying about $20 per ride to do all of the Lightning Lane. Now, arguably, if you look at the single pass, that's basically what you're paying for the single pass too, right? To go on one ride.
Right.
So in that weird sense, I'm like, actually, the pricing for the Premier Pass makes sense to a certain extent.
But you're not paying that kind of single pass for every ride.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, because you have the multi-pass, right? So the multi-pass makes it more affordable, because again, if you go back to multi-pass, you're paying $35 for Magic Kingdom for, again, $7 per ride. So it's almost more than half the price to go on, a few less rides essentially, right? But you're not guaranteed is what it is with the multi-pass for some of those rides, whereas with the Premier Pass, you're guaranteed every ride and every show, no callback times. So again, it's just like, again, what you're willing to pay. Right. So for instance, if you were going one person and you wanted to get all 4 premier passes which would be 51 rides and shows in total, for one person, you'd be paying $1,110 for one person, which again evens out to about $22 per ride. And so let's say you're a family of 4 and you wanted a family of 4, not including your park tickets, obviously, but you want to get the premier pass for all 4 parks, you'd be paying $4,440 for the premier pass.
Right. And then your park tickets now, if you wanted to go to the park tickets for 4 days for
so again, obviously this doesn't include the park tickets.
You're talking $8,000 just to go to the parks and go on all the rides.
Yeah. Well, again, with the premier or with the lightning lanes at least.
Do the premier passes do they sell out?
Sometimes they do. The only one I've ever seen sell out is Magic Kingdom during the very high peak time. So for instance, around Christmas time, I think the Magic Kingdom pass did sell out. Now it's important to note too, you can only purchase the premier pass if you're staying on a Disney resort property. Right. So if you're staying in a Marriott, let's say, or an Airbnb, you cannot purchase the premier pass. You have to be staying at least a Disney resort. It can be any Disney resort, even when the value resorts count now as well.
Right.
Yeah, any Disney resort, you can purchase the premier pass. But again, so you have to, more money then, arguably, because now you're spending more money on a Disney resort and then more money for your premier pass.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, I think that the mentality is, first of all, you have to have the money, and a lot of people don't have that kind of money to go on vacation. But I think the idea is that if you have the money, it becomes the price of how much relaxation you want on your vacation.
Yeah. So it was one of those things when I was talking to my friends about this, when I was saying when I purchased the multi-pass and the single pass for me and my 8 friends, including myself, there's 8 of us to go on the trip. When I compared the prices between doing the multi-pass and single pass with the premier pass, I did want to see, it's like, it would be nice if we could do the premier pass, because we were only going for 2 days. We're doing 4 parks in 2 days. So arguably, it's like, if I had the money, it's like, it would have been great to do everything in those 2 days. But the price range, what is crazy is that the price range is not just like a few $1,000s. It's tens of thousands of dollars is the difference between multi-pass and single pass versus the premier pass for a large group of people.
Right.
Like, it is a drastic difference. It's not just like
a drastic difference, a few hundred just for a family of 2 or 4.
It is, yeah. It is thousands of difference, right? It's not just like a little difference.
No, you're not talking $100. You're talking
like the
thousands.
premier pass truly is like a luxury type of pass to purchase to get through the lightning lanes, which I think is fair enough, because you do get a lot with it, all things considered.
Yes, and like I said, you have to decide if, like, people who only go to Disney once every couple of years, or this is their big vacation, or this is where they really want to see everything and do everything. Well, then you have to take the time to say, I'm going to decide to spend this money, because maybe their flight's not as expensive to get to Disney, or they can drive to Disney, where, you may pick to go to, a foreign country where the flight is going to cost you twice as much than it would to go to someplace like Florida. So it's all a choice.
Yeah. But so I would say overall, those are the 3 main passes as of right now of recording to get into the lightning lane. So again, you have your lightning lane, and then you have your 3 different passes to use the lightning lane. Now, of course, there is the disability pass as well, which is a lot different. We're not covering that in this, because the disability pass is very different. But yeah, these are the 3 main paid ways to get into lightning lane: your multi-pass, your single pass, and your premier pass. So that is why I wanted to make this episode, because again, there is a lot to it and it's very nuanced. And I feel like even after doing this, I'm like, this is so confusing, even just saying it by words.
Especially to somebody like me who doesn't use my phone as much and doesn't use the app, go on the apps as much. It is daunting. I think probably, like you said, once you start doing it, it kind of makes a little bit more sense.
It's one of those things where you kind of learn as you go type of thing. But it's one of the, it's again, if for my bachelorette, especially if I told Tyler or Shannon, it's like, all right, you guys can book the lightning lanes, they would have struggled because they've never done it before and they don't know how it works.
Especially for 8 people.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is, I gotta say, it is something that it's like, will take experience, unfortunately, to do, because, and being a little bit tech savvy, honestly, because if technology is a difficulty for you, this is going to be difficult. Right. It's not going to be easy, unfortunately. I will say Disney makes it as easy as I would arguably say
as easy as they can.
It is very user friendly, all things considered. But again, there's a lot of little details to pay attention to. That it does make it tricky. So I definitely recommend just again like looking into it beforehand, maybe practicing a little bit. Again, making sure you have like your days and like what rides you want to go on.
Your priorities set too, so that you know
for sure
if you don't get the ride you want, what's the second choice?
And then also just budgeting it out to see like, is it worth it? Is it, are we okay just going on maybe like three to five rides of the day and just waiting an hour each for those rides? Because sometimes it's like you don't mind waiting in some of the line queues. It's like you.
It also depends upon the time of year. Yeah. It depends on what season you're going in, how busy you think the park's going to be, how hot you think the park's going to be, things like that.
But for sure. But all right, if anyone has any questions on Lightning Lane, definitely feel free to reach out because I can definitely help. I'm not a travel agent or anything like that. Obviously, there's lots of Disney travel agents who can definitely help you more. Right. But again, if it's just from someone who's gone and used Lightning Lane, honestly, almost every time I've gone recently, just have a lot of my own personal experience, but definitely be willing to help anyone to answer any questions. So make sure you reach out on our Instagram, AlmostAmandaX. But now we will go into a little bit of Disney news, which actually we're not going to do any because this is over a month pre-recorded episode. So no Disney news for right now, but we'll do some Disney birthdays. So first up on July 8th, we have Phil Coulson. He's actually from the Marvel series. And then we also on July 11th have Candace from Phineas and Ferb, which they've just rebooted Phineas and Ferb, which is fun. Then on July 10th, we have my brother's birthday. So happy birthday to my brother Luke.
Happy birthday, Luke.
And also on July 11th, we have like 3 birthdays. We have my cousin Grace, my uncle Kenny, and my best friend's niece Isla. So happy birthday to everyone as well. And that leaves us with our final segment of the podcast, our Disney memory. So you have a Disney memory for today's podcast?
Oh, Disney memories was Fast Pass.
Yeah.
I remember standing at the machines, putting all the passes in and getting the little tickets out.
Yeah, I remember when we used to get to the parks and you'd like run to the Fast Pass machines to get the Fast Passes, right? It's like
That's what
I
came
have
into
that
my
memory.
mind, the Fast Pass machines.
So you'd run there, you get them as quickly as you could, or you would like divide and conquer, right? When we got a little bit older, we'd all go to the 3 separate Fast Pass machines and get all the Fast Passes, right? So it's like, yeah, I love the Fast Passes. I think in theory they were really great. I understand obviously why they changed it over to what the Lightning Lane is now, but again, overall, because in a way they say like it's technically, we would say in quotes, more fair, so to speak, because then you don't have to get to the park at park open to get a Fast Pass for like 2:00 in the afternoon. So in a way, it does make sense that it is through the app, with technology and everything like that. So now you don't have to get to park open or rope drop every time to do Fast Pass. So it's fine, but again, I do miss it. I do love the
they both
Fast
had
Passes.
their pros and cons. I'm not a big
I agree. I think
I'm not a big fan of Lightning Lane. I think that yes, I understand, but I also understand that it's because people will pay to do it. They get that possibility where people who can't afford, that are going to Disney, who can't afford to pay, have to stand on the long lines, and then you have to start deciding when you're going and what you're doing.
I think it's one of those things where every theme park has some version of Lightning Lane, so it's not like Disney is the only one that has this,
No,
so
not.
if Disney didn't have it, then it's just like, well, then they would be the odd ones out.
Yes,
and
like I said, time goes ahead. Yes,
that's the thing. People who have the money want it. Is the thing. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a tricky situation there.
Well, I fought it in the beginning. I mean, I was even one who said, no, we're not paying for like single lanes, and we're not paying for this, and we're not paying for that. And then I realized that we don't go that often. We only, when we go a few days once a year, that I say I'll just chalk it up to the price of the vacation at this point, so you know what you're paying for. But it is tough. It's a very controversial kind of thing. But
all right, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Make sure to give us a review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, any questions on Lightning Lane or any thoughts that you have on Lightning Lane, definitely let us know on our Instagram, Almost a Minute X. That will also be linked in the description. And until then, we'll see you guys. Bye.